I don't remember the exact moment the car hit me, just the sound of metal folding around my body and the taste of blood sliding down the back of my throat. 1 second I was crossing the road with a bag of groceries. The next I was lying on the pavement, unable to feel my right leg. People walked around me. Cars slowed down and then sped up again. Someone shouted, "She's moving! She's fine!" and kept going. I wasn't fine. I wasn't even sure I was alive. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. But the thing that kept pushing me forward wasn't hope. It was the thought of my parents. I kept whispering, "Mom, Dad, they'll help me. They'll open the door." And with that lie stitched into my ribs, I dug my palms into the pavement and began to crawl. My phone had flown somewhere during the impact. I didn't have it. Didn't have anyone to call. The only home I knew was theirs, even though every inch of it had been a battlefield since childhood. My arms shook under my weight. My knee dragged blood into the gravel. Every inch I moved felt like my bones were grinding together. A man at a bus stop pointed at me and laughed. A teenager lifted his phone and started recording. But I kept crawling. I kept thinking of my daughter, Ava, 7 years old, waiting at my friend Mia's house because I had asked her to watch her after school. I needed to get home so I could pick her up. I needed to show up like a mother who didn't break. The pain spread like fire up my spine, but I reached the end of the street. My parents' house stood in the distance, the place I was born, the place I grew up learning to walk on eggshells, the place where apologies were demanded from the wrong person every time. My hands were leaves shaking in a storm. My breath came out in cold gasps. But I kept crawling toward the porch. The porch light flickered on. Not because they cared, because they always turned it on at 6, same routine for years. I grabbed the first step. My nails scraped the wood. I pulled myself up. Inside, I heard laughter. My dad's deep, chesty laugh and my mom's sharp, knife-like snicker. My sister Paige's voice came through, too, bragging about something stupid like her new handbag or her upcoming spa trip. They sounded happy. Light, untouched. I knocked on the door with whatever strength I had left. It wasn't even a knock, more like my fingers tapping once before collapsing. The laughter stopped. Footsteps came closer. I heard my mother's voice first. "What is that sound?" Then the door opened 2 inches, just enough for her to see me on the ground, covered in blood and dirt, eyes swollen, lips split. I looked up at her like a child who still believed in magic. "Mom, help, please." Her face didn't even twitch. Not fear, not worry, just disgust. "Jesus Christ, you look pathetic." She pulled her phone out, dead calm, not even trying to hide what she was doing. "Hold on," she said, lifting her phone. "Stay still." I thought, stupidly, that she wanted proof for insurance, or she wanted to call an ambulance. No. She leaned down, snapped a photo, and smirked. Then I heard my father behind her. "Send it to Paige," he said. "She'll get a kick out of this." My mom's voice dropped into a mocking whisper as she typed, "Look at the trash trying to come inside." I felt the words like another hit from the car. Something in me cracked deeper than bone. Paige texted back immediately. I could hear the notification. "Ewa," she wrote out loud, giggling. "Tell her to crawl somewhere else." My dad opened the door wider, not to help, but to step outside and stand over me. His sneaker landed inches from my face. "You're bringing your disasters into our house now?" he said. "You always did love attention." I tried to push myself up, but my arms buckled. My body slid back down the step, and my cheek hit the porch floor. Can you please call someone? I think my leg is broken." My mom rolled her eyes. "Always dramatic. It's probably a bruise." My father snorted. "If she wants sympathy, let the sidewalk give it to her." He grabbed the door handle. "Don't step inside," he said coldly. "You'll dirty the floor." They slammed the door. I lay there shivering, gasping, bleeding, staring at the door I once believed would open for me no matter what. The porch light hummed above me, cold and indifferent. Every part of me wanted to scream. But another part of me, the part that had been stepped on for years, went silent. A woman across the street finally walked toward me, whispering, "Oh my God, sweetheart, what happened?" Her voice sounded like warmth for the first time in hours. She helped me sit up, then helped me call 911. As the sirens approached, I looked back at the house. The lights were still on. They were still laughing inside. They didn't look out the window. They didn't check if I was alive. In that moment, everything inside me stopped begging. Something new began forming instead, sharp, cold, and clear. Not poetic revenge, not quiet revenge, and not a single drop of forgiveness. Just something they would never see coming. The hospital room smelled like rubbing alcohol and burnt plastic, and every breath felt like it scraped my ribs from the inside. A nurse named Elena kept her voice gentle, but her eyes had that heavy look people get when they see something they wish they could unsee. "You're lucky," she said softly, adjusting my IV. "People hit like that. They don't usually crawl anywhere." Lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt hollow. The doctor told me my right leg had a hairline fracture, 2 ribs were bruised, and the gash on my forehead needed 8 stitches. He asked if someone could pick me up. I laughed, not because anything was funny, but because the only people who could pick me up were the same ones who sent a photo of me bleeding on their porch. "No," I said. "There's no one." He nodded like he'd seen that answer 100 times before. I wasn't allowed to leave until morning. The hospital gave me a wheelchair to use temporarily, and they set me up with an outpatient appointment. But the worst part wasn't the pain. It was knowing Ava and Caleb were asleep at Mia's house, probably wondering why Mommy hadn't come yet. Mia rushed to the hospital the second I called her, her face twisted in horror when she saw me. "What did they do to you?" she whispered. "Please tell me your parents didn't—" "They took a photo," I said, voice cracking, "and they texted it to Paige." Mia pressed her hand to her mouth. "You're not going back there. Ever." But I had no other home, no savings, no backup plan, just my kids. And the belief that somewhere, somehow, things would get better. A social worker arrived the next morning. She asked the kind of questions that made my stomach twist. "Do you feel safe returning to your family home?" "No." "Have they harmed you before?" "Yes." "Do they have access to your children?" "No." "Do you want assistance filing a report?" I hesitated, then nodded. Not to ruin them. Not yet, but because for the first time somebody asked me if I deserved safety, and I couldn't lie anymore. When I left the hospital, Mia held the wheelchair steady as I climbed into her car. She buckled my seatbelt like she was handling glass. "Just breathe," she whispered. "You're safe." Her apartment wasn't big, just a 2-bedroom place above a bakery, but it felt like heaven compared to the house that treated me like garbage. Ava and Caleb ran to me the second I arrived. "Mommy!" Ava cried, hugging me carefully. "Where were you?" Caleb asked, his brows tight with worry. I didn't have the heart to tell them everything. "Mommy got hurt," I said, stroking their hair. "But I'm okay now." They slept beside me that night, their little bodies curled against my arms as if guarding me in their own small way, and I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying that door slam, that laugh, that photo, that text message. Trash, trash, trying to come inside. My phone buzzed the next morning. Dad. "So are you done crying or what?" Mom. "You better not bring police here. We didn't touch you." Paige. "Send a cleanup crew next time. You looked disgusting." I read the messages with a calmness I didn't recognize, a stillness that felt dangerous. Mia looked over my shoulder. "They're not even ashamed," she said. "They never are." But something had shifted inside me, something they didn't expect, the kind of shift that comes from hitting rock bottom and finding steel under your bones. The social worker called later that day. "We reviewed your report. Because minors are involved, your children, we need to schedule an interview. The officers may follow up with your parents as well." I froze. "What do you mean follow up?" "They may visit the home to verify conditions." My parents were going to lose their minds. They thought they were untouchable, above consequences, above basic humanity. And I knew exactly how they would react. Rage first, then panic, then desperation. Good. When I finally got my crutches, Mia drove me to a pharmacy to pick up supplies. I was getting out of the car when my phone lit up again, this time with a video call from Paige. She smirked the second I answered. "Mom said the cops might come," she said. "Are you out of your mind? You're going to ruin her weekend plans." "My accident wasn't a plan," I said quietly. "Ugh, don't be dramatic. You always ruin everything." Then she leaned closer to the camera and sneered. "You should have stayed on the road. At least you looked like you belonged there." She hung up. I didn't cry. Not this time. Because while she was laughing, I was learning. I was learning just how far they would go, how blind they were to consequences, and how predictable their cruelty had become. And I realized something important. I didn't need to scream at them. I didn't need to fight. I didn't need to beg. I just needed to stop protecting them. Let the world and the law see them for who they really were. The police call came 2 hours later. "Ma'am, we'd like you to come in tomorrow to provide additional details." I wasn't terrified. I wasn't shaking. I felt ready. Because they didn't understand it yet. But the moment they took that photo of me, instead of helping, they handed me the weapon I needed. And Section 3 would be the moment they finally learned what happens when the person they called trash stops crawling. The police station smelled like old paper and burnt coffee, but for once, walking into a place didn't make me feel small. It made me feel steady. The officer assigned to my case, Detective Harris, slid a folder across the table. "We visited the property this morning," he said. "Your parents refused to cooperate. They denied knowing about your injuries until we mentioned the photo." My heart thudded. "They showed you?" "Oh, they didn't have a choice. Text messages, time-stamped, and their own front door camera matched your statement." He leaned forward. "Ma'am, what they did counts as neglect, endangerment, and obstruction of aid. And with your children involved, it gets worse for them." I didn't smile, but something inside me unclenched for the first time in years. "Do you want to proceed?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Every step." He nodded like he'd been waiting for that answer. Later that afternoon, I was making sandwiches for Ava and Caleb in Mia's kitchen when the knocking started. Not the gentle kind. The kind that rattled the door. Mia peeked through the blinds. Her eyes widened. "It's them!" I stepped forward on my crutches, breath steady. Mia unlocked the door, but didn't open it wide. My parents tried to push their way in, but she blocked the frame like a lion. Dad's face was red. Furious red. "You called the cops on us?" he barked. "You ungrateful parasite!" Mom jabbed a finger at my chest. "You're trying to destroy this family. Do you know how embarrassing this is?" I held eye contact, something I'd never been able to do before. "You took a photo of me bleeding on the ground," I said quietly. "And you sent it to Paige." Mom scoffed. "Because it was funny," Dad sneered. "You think a little bruise makes you a victim? Grow up." I shifted my weight on the crutches, calm and ice cold. "You locked your injured daughter out of the house," I said. "And the police have the proof. That's all that matters now." Mom's expression cracked first, panic leaking through her arrogance. "You need to retract your statement," she said. "Right now. Tell the police it was a misunderstanding." I didn't answer. Dad stepped closer, his voice dropping to a threatening growl. "You owe us. We fed you. We raised you. If we go down, we won't go alone." That's when I pointed to the security camera on Mia's porch, blinking red, recording every second. "You just threatened me on camera," I said. Dad's jaw locked. Mom grabbed his arm. "Let's go. We'll fix this later." "No," I said. "You won't." They froze. "The detective already filed emergency restrictions. You cannot approach me or the kids. You cannot contact me, and you cannot come to my workplace or Mia's property." Mom's face twisted. "How dare you do this to your own parents?" "You did it to yourselves," I said. "You forgot something important. The moment you locked that door, you stopped being my parents." They stormed off, shouting curses loud enough for the neighbors to hear, but nobody stepped out to defend them. Everyone had heard something through the years. Everyone had seen something. This time, they weren't the victims. This time, they were exposed. 2 weeks later, the official decision came: a protective order, mandatory counseling for anger and neglect, a welfare investigation for their entire household, 0 contact with me or my children for 18 months minimum. When the officer handed me the papers, I felt something break. Not in pain, but in release. Ava hugged my leg. "Mommy, are we safe now?" I knelt down, pulling her and Caleb close. "Yes," I whispered. "We are." A month later, I was walking better, slowly rebuilding a life without fear. A new job, a new apartment, a new routine where my kids laughed freely. One evening, Mia burst through my door with her phone in her hand. "You need to see this," she said. It was a video. A neighbor had recorded it. My parents standing outside their house as child welfare officers arrived. Mom shouting at the sky. Dad trying to argue and failing. A police cruiser waiting by the curb. For once, they looked small. They looked powerless. "They're blaming each other," Mia said, shaking her head. "They're falling apart." I didn't enjoy watching it, but I didn't look away either. Because after a lifetime of bruises, humiliation, and silence, I finally understood something. Revenge didn't need flames. It didn't need a speech. It didn't need me screaming outside their house. It just needed truth, finally allowed to be seen. And the last time they saw me was through a squad car window as I drove past with my kids. Heads high, windows down, no fear in the air. Their smoke didn't follow me anymore because I wasn't crawling. I was walking away. For good. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.